Zhuangzi and the Great Tree. One crisp autumn morning, as the early mist clung to the forest leaves, Zhuangzi strolled leisurely into a dense woodland. The scenery around him was like a traditional Chinese painting, sunlight filtered gently through the canopy, and the chirping of birds harmonized with the soft rustling of leaves in the breeze. Zhuangzi cherished such walks, moments when he could immerse himself in nature, feel the pulse of the earth, and reflect on life's profound yet simple truths. As he wandered, lost in thought, a sharp, rhythmic sound broke through the tranquil atmosphere. It was the distinct thwack of an axe striking wood, its steady rhythm echoing through the forest. Intrigued, Zhuangzi quickened his pace. Before long, he came upon a woodsman, hunched over, chopping down a tree. The woodsman was no longer young. His hair was streaked with gray, but his movements were swift and precise. He worked with the ease of someone who had repeated this task countless times, muttering quietly to himself as he swung his axe. "Good day," Zhuangzi called out, his voice gentle yet clear amidst the forest's quietude. The woodsman paused, looking up at Zhuangzi, then smiled in greeting. "Good day, sir. Are you out for a walk in the woods? It's beautiful here, isn't it? For me, though, this forest is my livelihood. I cut trees to earn my keep. The work is hard, but it provides enough for 3 meals a day." Zhuangzi smiled back and stepped closer. His gaze wandered to a nearby giant tree that stood tall and commanding. It was a massive old tree, its branches spreading wide to cast a cool shade over a large patch of forest floor. The trunk was enormous, but its surface was gnarled, and it twisted in strange, uneven curves. Unlike the straight, smooth trees around it. "That's quite a remarkable tree," Zhuangzi said, pointing toward the towering giant. "It's so large and majestic. Why don't you cut it down? Surely, it would yield a great deal of wood." The woodsman laughed aloud at this, a hint of mockery in his tone. "That tree? You must be joking. Sure, it's big, but it's utterly useless. The wood is soft and porous, no good for building anything sturdy, like a house or furniture. The trunk is crooked and twisted, so it can't be cut into straight planks. And to top it off, no one even wants to buy it for firewood. A tree like that might look impressive, but it's completely worthless. That's why I've never bothered with it." Zhuangzi nodded thoughtfully, his eyes fixed on the tree. He stood silently for a moment, as though contemplating something profound. Then, with a quiet smile, he spoke, his voice calm and deliberate. "This tree remains uncut precisely because of what you call its uselessness. If it were straight and strong like the other trees, you would have chopped it down long ago. By now, its wood would have been burned in someone's hearth or fashioned into part of a house. But because it doesn't meet the needs of men, it has been left alone, free to grow here, serene and undisturbed. Its so-called uselessness is the very thing that allows it to endure." The woodsman froze, his axe hanging loosely in his hands. He had never thought of it that way before. To him, trees only had value if they could serve some practical purpose, whether as lumber, firewood, or tools. But the way Zhuangzi regarded the great tree challenged his perspective, leaving him momentarily speechless. "Are you saying," the woodsman finally asked, his voice slower now, as though he was piecing together the idea for the first time, "that even uselessness has its own value?" Zhuangzi chuckled softly, his long fingers stroking his beard as his gaze lifted to the tree's sprawling canopy. From the human point of view, value is often measured by usefulness. But nature doesn't work that way. This tree doesn't provide timber or fuel, yet it offers shade to the forest floor, shelter to the birds, and stability to the soil. It simply exists, fulfilling its role in the forest without the need to prove itself to anyone. People, like trees, often chase after recognition or purpose imposed by society. But in doing so, they risk forgetting how to live authentically. Sometimes, being free of expectations, free to exist without pressure or judgment, is the best way to find peace and longevity. The woodsman stood still, digesting Zhuangzi's words. They felt like a breeze sweeping through his mind, clearing away the dust of his long-held beliefs. He turned back to the great tree, looking at it as though seeing it for the first time. No longer just a useless tree, it now seemed to embody strength and quiet wisdom, enduring the passage of time by simply being. After a long silence, the woodsman bowed to Zhuangzi, his voice tinged with gratitude. "You're right, sir. Perhaps this tree isn't as useless as I thought, and maybe I should rethink some of the values I've clung to all my life." Zhuangzi smiled and returned the bow. Without another word, he turned and continued his walk, disappearing deeper into the forest. His calm demeanor and the wisdom in his eyes seemed to leave an unspoken message hanging in the air. As Zhuangzi's figure vanished among the trees, the woodsman remained where he was, staring up at the great tree. It stood there, silent and steadfast, a living testament to the lesson Zhuangzi had just imparted, that in life, not striving, not competing, and not conforming to imposed expectations can often be the most enduring path to true freedom and peace. The meaning of the story. Zhuangzi's tale of the great tree is not merely about nature, but also a profound lesson in life. The uselessness of the tree, as perceived by society, is precisely what ensures its survival, sparing it from the axe and allowing it to thrive. Through this story, Zhuangzi teaches us to question the rigid standards by which we measure value and success. People often feel compelled to prove their worth through achievements or by meeting societal expectations. But this pursuit can lead to unnecessary struggles and self-alienation. Like the great tree, sometimes the greatest freedom comes from stepping away from the race to be useful. Instead of striving for external validation, one can simply embrace life as it is, finding contentment and harmony in just being. This is the essence of Zhuangzi's philosophy, a call to live authentically, in tune with nature and one's true self.